Alright, hello YouTube. For this video, I really want to talk about something that I really care about in my Power Stroke. So obviously, my truck's not the cleanest looking right now because of just rust, and you know, I had a couple things happen to it in the recent times. Obviously, the fender bent back a little bit, but she still runs, and she's gonna get a lot of work done soon. It should be back to just very nice standings. So the biggest thing I want to talk about is fluids in your engine, and we'll get to what this is in a second. So in my Power Stroke, for fluids, I only run Rotella T6. The reason I only run Rotella T6, and that is a 5W40 weight oil, is well, that's what everybody says to run, really. But it gives you the best protection, in my opinion, of your motor. I also use this with something called Arch Oil, which there's a bunch of videos online about the benefits of that for cold starting and cleaning your injectors, because this is a HEUI injector system, which is a hydraulic oil pressure system, and you know, we want to make sure everything's nice in there. I also use Arch Oil in my diffs. A lot of people don't do that because they don't think they can, but I use Arch Oil in my diffs as the friction modifier. Now, the reason I love the Rotella T6 is, for one, everybody uses it. It makes it nice. And every time I've used that oil, I've had the best results with my truck. I used to use, I think I was using just plain old Mobil 1 something. And I had to use the Ford Motorcraft oil, and my oil temperatures were higher. Now, I don't want to, that could be other things going on, but they were higher. I just want to go on record for that. They were. As soon as I switched to Rotella T6, those went down, especially with the Arch Oil. And another thing I love to run is this. Anybody who I know having 6.0 always has a coolant filter. Keep that coolant nice and clean. I can tell you multiple times where I've taken off my filter to change it, and it has just been filled with crap because of the coolant system in this truck. I don't like it at all. I think it's the worst ever. And one of the biggest things is this. So everybody's gonna see this and be like, "Oh my God, your head gaskets are blown." Well, last time I checked, and this still had this, they weren't. When I got the head gasket checked done, when I was getting my truck worked on, what is actually happening is I have a bad water pump, so it leaks out when it's really cold. Some people have the problem this truck is, and it's not holding pressure, so it's having a sometimes higher, sometimes lower pressure than it needs to, and it's bubbling out of the cap. I replaced this cap many times. I always buy the Ford Motorcraft cap because that's what you need. If you don't know, this cap is the #1 saver for your truck, basically. But I do not have a head gasket problem. My coolant always stays the same. It leaks a little bit out because of, you know, this is the agent in the coolant for the that keeps its boiling temperature. That's what's coming out of the engine block. It is not blown head gaskets, and people might fight me on that, but I know it's not. But again, for coolant, I only run the Ford coolant. They're good coolant. I know a lot of people that run the CAT coolant, the ELC coolant, but I just, for price, that's just ridiculous. It's like in $36 for a gallon or something, and it's not pre-diluted or anything. It's just, no, I'm not paying that. The Ford stuff works just as good, and it's what's recommended for your truck. So that's what I run. The more things I run in the truck is interstate batteries. I only run interstates. I know a lot of people that run they walk into Walmart, you know, give me these batteries, put them in my truck right now. I happen to like interstates. They're a little more expensive, but they always come with a good warranty because I get mine at Costco. These ones died on me about a month ago, and again about a week ago. When my truck gets cold, I don't have it plugged in. My batteries die because it doesn't have enough juice to crank. We're going to talk about in another video the importance of using your block heater. Something I'm very avid about. As soon as it gets below 30 degrees or 35 degrees, I have my block heater plugged in all night. I'm not one of those people that wake up extra early, plug it right in, whatever it costs, it costs. But I do use interstate batteries. I love them. They usually start. I say usually, like, they're such great batteries. It's just that I don't plug my truck in always. I've had it many times where I don't plug the truck in, it's got near zero, just turns right over. It just depends on the day, how long you run it last, and how long you ran it for. Yeah, this is just a plastic dip. That's a piece of crap. But the next thing would have to be, we're looking at my engine block, my S&B intake. Now, this thing, whew, I love it. A lot of people say the stock air filter is good up to like 500 horsepower in your 6.0. Cool. But when I switched this thing over to the S&B intake, and I had the straight pipe before in my truck, when I go down to Mexico, this made my turbo spool. And I mean spool. Now, I have a Garrett Paramax Stage 2. I do not have a wicked wheel. One of my biggest regrets is not putting a wicked wheel on. And I might do it soon, the wicked wheel too, from Diesel's site. But this thing makes her spool, and it gives me the power I need, and I really like it. Next is what's covered in my coolant stuff. This is my cold side charge pipes, and I got my hot side. Now, these are Mishimoto. I love Mishimoto products. The only thing I don't have is the intake elbow, and I mean, they're just, it's Mishimoto. What else are you going to say? They just break products for your diesels. Sorry, this car went up. And for the price point too, I mean, you're gonna put the stock Ford ones back on there that don't do crap. Okay, so again, this is just a basic, like, going into what I do for maintenance wise to my truck and what I have done to it. So I went through all my fluids, what batteries I use, my coolant filter. Now I'm going to talk about what's done to the engine. So this thing has a full bulletproof. The heads came off and were replaced with an 05-07 head. They were head studded, and it had a new high pressure oil pump put in. It was 90,000 miles, about 135 right now. The only thing that I'm questioning right now is obviously the water pump needs to be changed. I can turn the truck on, you can hear it. It's very bad, and it leaks a little bit when the truck's not plugged in because it's not holding pressure. For one, that is that, and as you're gonna see right here, basically, I don't know if I can zoom. What you're looking at is my top fuel filter, and that is the fuel regulator. Now, what had happened is somebody went to do a blue spring, it seems, and they didn't use the old one because they used the old regulator housing, and this is because they stripped a bolt and snapped it inside the housing. Now, they could not put the new one on, obviously, because it had different screw pattern and wouldn't thread. So they put this one on it, and didn't actually, that C-clamp's from me, they didn't actually put the C-clamp on it. What had happened is I just got the truck, and I noticed I had a fuel pressure gauge at the time off a tuner, and I noticed that my fuel pressure was not where it should be, and I looked at the stock fuel pressure, and I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing, like, there's no fuel system on the truck yet. And so I go, well, this is weird. And I started tinkering around, and sure enough, pulling my fuel filters one day, changing them out, and I noticed that, in fact, I was missing a screw, and you could actually pull a little bit out. It wasn't leaking, but you could pull a little bit out. So I was like, oh, that has to be it. So I put this C-clamp on it, and I tell you, that was hard to get in there. But I put this C-clamp on it, and fuel pressure went back up to stock, and I've had no issues since. Now, in the future, I do want to get a regulated return system on my truck and a fuel system. Either an air dog or fast. People say other ones are better than others. I don't really care. I just want a fuel system because I'm going to get new injectors. These are still the stock injectors. But the regulated return fuel up here will negate that top fuel filter, because these 6.0s have two, and we'll get rid of that whole mess. So I'm waiting on that. It works for now. It ain't pretty, but she gets it done. Next thing I want to talk about is I have the PowerMax Stage 2, no wicked wheel, stock wheel on it, Garrett PowerMax, very good turbo. Thing pulls like a son of a gun. The only problem I have with it is that it doesn't like to tow, and there's a lot of people online that say the same thing. I don't know what the deal is, but people say once they get the wicked wheel, it tows a little better. Right. So the next part of my truck is my favorite part. And we're gonna... All right, we didn't just slip in the ice there. We're good. So the next part is my favorite part. I have an MBRP full 5-inch exhaust. Well, not exactly full. As you know, you can't fit more than a 4-inch off the turbo unless you got the cab off and you put a 4.5 on. It'll fit, but you never get it off of there. The cab's on. We're gonna cut it in half. So it goes right here is where it switches into a 5. So it's a 4 to 5. Really nice exhaust. Only used in Mexico. And it's, oh geez, got a little fun on the exhaust pipe there, but it makes this truck sound great. And the next part we're going to talk about is, hey Atlas, is there a EGR on your truck? Well, you see, yes and no. If you took so guys, what I just pointed you know what I'm talking about. This thing does have an EGR delete. Reason this, it's out of emissions now in the state of Connecticut. So after this year, it's done. It's an 04. I don't gotta get any more. But I did go to emissions, and I did have this thing tested. I have the emission card. I'll try to find it, post a picture of it. This thing did a 0.3 out of 20 PPT or ppm, parts per million, on the rolling 25 an hour emissions test. And the guy that did it said I actually ran lower than a stock truck would, a brand new 2019 Duramax. I had done as a Chevy dealer, I know. That's where they could do it, and they could do my truck. So it got lower emissions rating than a stock Duramax from 2019.